Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. As for those of you who are just joining in, we are in the midst of our annual nonprofit series. So this is a series that means the world to me. For me, about the holidays are about giving and receiving. And so when we first started our first year of Her Success Story, we decided to do a holiday series that's focused on nonprofits and learning how we can all broaden our minds, broaden our horizons in all the wonderful organizations that are doing well out there or doing good work out there. Today, my guest is Beth Dahle. Beth is the Executive Director of Compass in Philadelphia. It's a consultancy providing pro bono strategic guidance to nonprofits. Beth has been actively engaged in the nonprofit community in the greater Philadelphia region for over 20 years as a volunteer, a board member, and a grant writer. In 2008, she co-founded an organization called Impact100 in Philadelphia, a women's collective philanthropic organization, which had awarded over $3.5 million in grants to date. Beth, you're a woman who has a strong heart and a strong fortitude in building and leading organizations. Welcome and thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
So how did you get in, first of all, like you have been dedicated for over 20 years to the nonprofit community. Can you share a little bit about why that was important to you, how you got involved in that?
Well, I don't think I thought about it at the time, but as I think back about it now, I was actually the philanthropy chairman in my sorority in college. I went to Duke, and my sorority's national philanthropy was the Ronald McDonald House. There's a Ronald McDonald House right on Duke University's campus, and I spent a fair amount of time in my college years volunteering at that house. Fast forward a number of years, I think I found myself kind of just organically more and more involved in my local community through nonprofits, whether it was cleaning up a park for Martin Luther King Day. I volunteered for many years with a local organization that serves seniors in my home community. And I think I went from being a volunteer to a donor, to a committee member, to a board member, to leading and starting a nonprofit myself. So it was kind of gradual over those 20 years.
So share a little bit about Compass, because it really, when I heard about it, it truly intrigued me.
So Compass is actually a really cool organization. It is rare, if not unique, an opportunity for business professionals to engage with their local nonprofits. And what Compass does is facilitate that opportunity. We engage business professionals, harness their educational background, their professional expertise, and connect them with nonprofits in collaborative teams in order to help nonprofits address critical strategic challenges they're having, whether it's around board development, funding strategies, alignment, marketing, partnerships. And what has been the most gratifying to me is that even after those consulting, they're all pro bono consulting engagements conclude, is to see how many of our own volunteers actually remain engaged with those nonprofits that they learned about through Compass as donors and as volunteers and as board members. And Compass's mission, truly says we engage business professionals with local nonprofits to transform communities.
So the business professionals come in and strategically help the nonprofit from a business perspective. And can you share a little bit about looking at nonprofits versus businesses? Some people think they get it and they say, oh, it's really the same. You just have the different end users. Some people don't see a relationship. They think it's very different. What's your perspective?
That's actually a great question. So in a lot of ways, nonprofits, are like for-profit businesses. There's some myths out there. There's some myths out there that, nonprofits don't make money. Of course they make money. If they didn't make money, they wouldn't be in business. I was on the board of an organization where the CEO actually banned the term nonprofit from the vernacular at that organization. He says, we are not for profit. They have to make money. They can't distribute the proceeds. They can't pay their board members. But, nonprofits, they have revenues and expenses because they have to employ personnel. They have to produce products. They have expenses to pay. They have to balance an annual budget. They certainly face competition among, other nonprofits for audiences and resources. Some of them actually are very large. A lot of people stereotype nonprofits as these small, tiny, weird, small entities, while in reality, our largest institutions, medical, professional, healthcare organizations, they're nonprofits as well. So there's a lot of overlap. I mean, their financial statements might be called something different. They certainly have many of the same challenges that for-profits do. I guess I would say not that nonprofits never make decisions around expenses, but traditionally nonprofits are really focused on the mission. They're not public organizations. They're not making decisions. They're not reporting to Wall Street. And like I said, they can't pay their board members.
So how did you, why Compass? So if you're a woman, you've been in the consulting world, you had a career, you've raised kids. And when you jump back in to take, a massive leadership position, what attracted you to Compass? Why you and why this organization for you?
Well, to be honest, I guess I had been strategically thinking about what I was going to do next. I spent a year when my youngest daughter was a senior in high school thinking, what next? I had seen friends and colleagues not really prepare for empty nesterdom, and I decided that was not going to be me. And so my husband and I did a couple things, but one of the things on my list was that I was going to get a job. At the time, my girls were in school. They actually played sports in college. So I knew I wanted some flexibility. I knew I was still going to be traveling, lucky enough to travel to still stand on sidelines for a number of years to cheer them on. And so I was as focused on, what I would be doing and the flexibility it offered as I was, how much I would be getting paid at the time. And when the opportunity came along, I felt like it was such a cool opportunity to marry my consulting experience, my probably even longer experience in the nonprofit sector here locally, as it was suitable for my personality. As I thought back on it and all the things that I've done, I always seem to be involved with organizations, primarily at the grassroots level, building something from the ground up. And whether that was, business development skills or development in general, I feel like I was involved with every annual giving campaign at every school my kids ever attended. I just thought that this was a really a good niche that, I could fill here in the community.
And, we can't be living in 2020 without me asking. It's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting year for businesses. It's been an interesting year in the nonprofit sector. What are some of, I want to look at both sides of the coin. What are some of the challenges that Compass and you and its organization have faced this year? And then on the other side of the coin, what are some of the breakthroughs and opportunity and possibilities that have arisen due to living through a global pandemic?
Oh, well, for sure. I mean, there's winners and losers in everything, right? For everyone. And there's definitely been some challenges and silver linings for Compass as well. In most years, our challenge, is fundraising. I mean, Compass doesn't provide direct service. Even prior to COVID, Compass does not provide, direct services. I can't hold up a picture of a child that we're feeding or a senior citizen that we're clothing. I can't say we're, curing cancer. But we're working with organizations that provide those direct services. And so what Compass does is partner with organizations from a position of strength. We want to work with organizations that are already doing great work, but lack the time or the money to boost their capacity and make it easier, better, and more efficient for them to deliver on their mission. And so Compass is a nonprofit, just like the clients we work with. And so in any given year, certainly fundraising is a challenge for us. Sometimes, like I said, more so because we are not kind of this direct service provider. But in reality, in Philadelphia, there are 15,000 nonprofits in the greater Philadelphia community, 2/3 of which are providing direct service or direct, not private foundations, but are, providing services, or public charities, I should say. And, they're all competing for the same dollars. So with COVID, layered over that, it's challenging for all of them. In terms of kind of the pluses, the Compass team here in Philadelphia already worked partly remotely anyway. We certainly had an office we went to, my staff here gathers, but Compass exists in 3 cities. We started in Washington, D.C. almost 20 years ago. We've been in Philadelphia for 7. We've been in Chicago for almost 5. And so even prior to COVID, we already used technology to meet fairly regularly, share resources, institutional knowledge. So that was not a challenge. Our consulting teams, we did 28 consulting projects last year. We had almost 200.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And in
addition, is that just okay, question
that was just in Philadelphia.
Yep. Just Philadelphia, because I want you to understand. So 28 consulting client projects, which is looking at the impact of 28 nonprofits you're impacting.
That's exactly right.
In 1 year.
In fact, last year we actually impacted 46 nonprofits because as a result of COVID, like a lot of our nonprofit colleagues, Compass stood up some new programs and new resources. And we did an additional 22, we called on-demand consulting projects, where rather than a team-based approach, we matched one business professional with a nonprofit. So we worked with 46 nonprofits during our last fiscal year. Tremendous, right?
That is huge. And that ripple impact is really where it gets massive.
Well, that's right. And that's what I tell all of our stakeholders, potential donors. 2 big things. If you donated $1 to Compass last year, you helped 46 nonprofits improve their strategy, their governance, and their, the strategic guidance that they have. And more importantly, because we are leveraged, we have this great volunteer core. We have a staff. We certainly have a huge volunteer core. Every dollar that comes into Compass translates into $10 of pro bono strategy consulting services back to the local nonprofit community.
And I'm recapping this and I'm digesting it. So every dollar that comes in is equivalent to $10
of services. If you donate $200 to me, you're supporting the organizations here with $20,000 worth of services.
That's a big deal. That's a huge conversion.
Yeah. Where do you kind of get a rate of return like that anywhere these days?
Touche to that.
Right. And it's tax deductible.
So on the opposite side, okay, what has been the impact on Compass as an organization this year?
On the positive?
Yes.
Well, we certainly heard from a lot of our volunteers who amazingly now had more time to devote to their nonprofit clients. I mean, we certainly heard from some of our, folks who were, either, were furloughed, but mostly people were home and they had more time. Typically, our Compass volunteer teams meet in person at least twice a month, usually weekly, with their nonprofit clients, make presentations to their boards. Well, there's no commute to any of those meetings anymore because they're all done virtually. So we just did a training last week for 150 new team members for the 19 projects we're kicking off this fall. There were 4 people who couldn't attend. 4.
That in looking at numbers, if you want to gather a group of 20, you're always hoping for 50% or so show up rate.
Yep.
And so here you just missed 4.
We were missing 4 who had conflicts.
Huge.
So on the flip side, the technology has certainly helped our teams engage. We're trying to be creative about fostering engagement, not just within the team itself, but across the team. So in another year, example, my board members will host small potluck gatherings for our volunteers in small groups. So one, they get an opportunity to meet volunteers on other teams. So this year we just kicked off 19 projects this fall. We're going to do another 15 to 17 projects. They'll kick off in January. But among these 19 projects, each team is staffed with 8 or 9 people, and those people interact on their project. But how do they get to meet volunteers on other projects? Well, we have some events, one of these potlucks. And so how great that my board hosts small gatherings in their homes for small groups of people. Sometimes it's a sit-down dinner for 8. Sometimes it's a more casual gathering for 20, but typically not larger than that. So an opportunity to not only meet colleagues across teams, people in other professions, different backgrounds, but also to meet a Compass board member and share the experiences that they're having. And we have a couple of other touch points. So we're trying to be creative about how we foster that type of engagement in a remote world right now. So as an example, we'll have convenings with just our project leaders remotely. We're going to try to build in a little bit of education, non-required but optional education opportunities at other times. But that's probably the biggest challenge right now.
I have to say, from a networking perspective, if back in the day when I was building a career, or even today as I build businesses, right? And I'm building my own business, the opportunity to network and meet people in cross sectors and expand your network while you're actually doing good work is massive. One of the things when I teach networking, and I say, what organizations are you involved in? What nonprofits, what charities, what, community service, like, where are you involved? Where's your community? Where's your network? And here you actually have this ability to strengthen your network for your future while giving back, which is it's a beautiful, beautiful way to do that.
It is. And I'll be honest, when I took this job, my kids were, in college, and I was confident that every volunteer that was going to apply to serve on the teams. And we turned down almost 50% of business professionals who apply to be on these teams, which was shocking to me. I was not surprised that we got more applications from nonprofits than spots available for projects, but really embarrassment of riches. I could not believe it. And we've tried to make a better effort at meeting the demand. I used to work part-time. We're now a staff of 3 here. But really, it just is a testament, I think, to the quality of the program and the opportunity of providing professionals. But we actually ask our volunteers when they apply, why do you want to volunteer? Because like I said, I thought they would all be, 25, networking for their next job, or anticipating me writing their recommendation for business school. And in reality, I certainly have, volunteers a couple of years out of undergraduate. I have middle-aged moms like me who've stayed home and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. They want an opportunity outside, volunteering at the Home and School Association, to retired senior executives. And we actually asked them on their volunteer application, why do you want to apply? Why do you want to be a Compass volunteer? And we hear it's a social networking opportunity. It's a professional networking opportunity. If you serve on these teams, you have access to the board members, and you're meeting with the board members of nonprofits. And those boards are populated with other business professionals in the community. They want to develop skills that they don't have. They want to share skills that they do have with others. They want to meet people in other industries. So for all of those reasons, and on the back end, we survey our volunteers and our clients twice throughout the process. And then a couple years later, we survey the nonprofits to see what kind of impact that the team's recommendations had. But on the back end, we hear the very same things, that they appreciated the opportunity to volunteer with Compass, to develop and hone skills, to get new expertise, to meet people in other sectors, because as particularly younger folks, they're saying to their bosses at, the companies in town where they work, whether it's the consulting firms or the large corporations, I'm giving you my sweat equity all day from 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever they work now. Like, what else are you doing for me? Are you creating an opportunity for me to be involved in the community? And what those companies have realized is that in participating on a Compass project, their employees are gaining a leadership and professional development opportunity in participating in that collaborative effort. And to be blunt, it's also it's a branding opportunity for the company. Those companies, want to be able to demonstrate to their stakeholders that company XYZ is, surely committed to their local nonprofits.
Where do you see, so Compass obviously is on the growth. It's an amazing organization with a great mission. And I personally love that ripple impact. It's a win-win for the volunteer. It's a win-win for the donor. It's the win-win for the nonprofits that are impacted by having these amazing strategic consultants coming in and helping them. Started in DC, expanded to Philadelphia, now in Chicago. In looking forward as an organization, where's it going?
Well, so before COVID, I would say we still, and we are one organization, even though we're in different cities, we're one nonprofit. Our strategic plan says that we are going to continue our geographic expansion. What living through COVID has told us and shown us is that we don't actually have to have boots on the ground in order to be able to provide value in other cities. So one of the other programs beyond on-demand consulting that we launched as a result of COVID was something called Compass Connect Conversations. So we have convenings once a month across all 3 Compass cities for executives at nonprofits, their board members, on a topical a timely, topic, whether it's on allyship or resources necessary, for COVID, or HR implications. And we all of a sudden realized that, through technology, we could provide an opportunity for, nonprofits in Philadelphia to engage with counterparts in our other cities. And before we knew it, we realized we had people on those calls who actually didn't live in any of those cities. So that is one thing that has really showed us that we don't actually, if we're going to continue to expand, it might not require us to first have boots on the ground. It might, move that way. As another example, in addition to the consulting projects we do, I formed a partnership about 18 months ago with a major local pharmaceutical company who wanted us to extend our skills-based volunteer opportunity by matching their executives to the boards of local nonprofits. And so Compass had a program we had done for 5 years already in DC, where we not only sourced, vetted, and matched executives, business professionals to the boards of local nonprofits, but then we trained them, for board service. And we brought the very same approach we had in recruiting volunteers and preparing them to serve on consulting teams to support nonprofits to that board matching and training program. And after going through one cohort here with that company said to me, "Can you do that for us in Dallas?" And I'm such a development person, like I never say no right away. And I'm thinking, well, let me think about that. Let me get back to you.
And first of all, I have to say, one of the things I adore about you, and as I've been getting to know you, is the attitude you show up with is I never say no right away.
Oh, I'm always trying to figure out how do we get to yes. I treat my life like that.
And that's a huge component, and it's a huge statement about the woman you are and the leader you are, of looking at that, of how do we get to yes, because it's so easy to say no without thought.
That's right. So we did get to yes in Dallas, and we did actually bring that program to Dallas. So that's where I think Compass is headed, is how do we better deliver on our mission? How do we help more nonprofits? How do we extend our program, which now has, almost 20 years of a solid proven track record, to other metropolitan organizations that have a rich business community, a rich nonprofit sector? And how do we bring the best of business to support those nonprofits? And like I said, not in a way to tell a nonprofit organization that you're not running your agency like a for-profit business, but how can we bring some strategic guidance to help you be better able to deliver on your mission?
How can our listeners learn more, get involved, reach out, follow? Because I have to tell you, I'm intrigued. As we're talking, I'm like going through my mental list of who I want to personally share this with, because I'm a huge fan of nonprofits, and to find an organization that is the top tier of giving to multiple ways is intriguing.
Well, we have a website, www.compassprobono.org. My contact information is on there. If anybody wants to get involved, they can certainly email me, call me. I'm super responsive. And as Compass has grown, not just from city to city, but even within Philadelphia, we started here 7 years ago with 4 projects. 4. And, like I said, last year we served 46 nonprofits. We have multiple points of entry for business professionals to get involved with us.
I love that. And thank you, Beth, for sharing all this great information and enlightening myself and our listeners. Those people who listen to her success story, we are the action takers. You are the action takers of the world. This is a way to learn more. If you do nothing, please leave a little note in the comments of what you took away about learning about Beth, as well as Compass as an organization, and what you could see you could be doing moving forward. It's not just the learning, it's about the implementation and the action we take as leaders. In addition, please hit subscribe. We come into your inbox every Monday morning, bright and early, with new content, new interviews that you can do on your merry way, whether you're taking a walk, if you're no longer commuting to work. We'd love to know the new and innovative ways you're listening to her success story on a daily basis. Thank you for joining me here today, Beth.
Thank you for having me.